Hello and welcome to you all. Being president of a country requires strong skills in many areas, especially when it comes to how to behave in public. Yet some presidents let themselves go out of carelessness or clumsiness, while others fall into embarrassment unwillingly. Imagine Putin taking a memorable fall in front of hundreds of spectators, or Emmanuel Macron receiving an egg in the face, or a camera filming Donald Trump's large bald spot despite all his attempts to hide it from the general public. That would be really embarrassing. If you wish to discover these situations and many more, stay with us until the end. Here are the social mistakes, gaffes and other presidential blunders, who are sometimes to laugh out loud. It is well known that Russian President Vladimir Putin practices several physical activities, including ice hockey. To prove his skills, the president participated in a hockey game in which he scored 8 goals, offering a 14-7 victory to his team. Following this remarkable performance, Putin undertook a lap of honor at the end of the game. Everything was going very well, until he fell in a memorable way in front of the spectators' eyes. Besides ice hockey, Vladimir Putin also practices judo. He even has a black belt. So, it's no fun looking for sticks for the current Russian president. But that's not what this young woman thought. She didn't spare her opponent as she knocked him down in just a few seconds. Then Putin presumably got up embarrassed. During official meetings, politicians must behave in an exemplary manner. However, Mohamed Morsi, former president of Egypt, seems to have forgotten this fundamental rule. Thus, during a meeting with the former Australian Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, Morsi behaved, to say the least, indecently. Indeed, we can see him in this sequence touching himself between the legs. Yes, you heard right. Obviously, as a result of such behavior, Morsi became the target of criticism. In 2010, a truly amazing event took place at the Arab Summit. The reason? Well, the former Italian Prime Minister, Silvio Berlusconi, didn't seem to really know how to behave in public. So, when he saw Muammar Gaddafi, the former Libyan head of state, reach out his hand, Silvio spontaneously leaned over to kiss it. Unsurprisingly, this astonishing and surprising act was strongly criticized by the Italian media. Because of the coronavirus, everyone knows, we don't have to shake hands anymore. But Prince Charles probably forgot to consider that basic precaution. During one event, Prince Charles twice tried to greet the participants with a handshake. Seeing that no one was holding out their hand in return, he was forced to change his greeting method, opting for namaste. In spite of this, Prince Charles obviously did not learn the lesson as he eventually caught the virus. When Donald Trump was on a trip to Poland, he received a memorable moment from the wife of the Polish president. As the White House tenant reached out to him, Agata Kornhauser-Duda snubbed him, probably unintentionally, preferring to greet Melania Trump first. The frozen and disgusted face of Donald Trump in this sequence says a lot about his surprise, looking his irritation, at having been ignored in this way. Donald Trump does not tolerate criticism of his hair. But unfortunately for him, a video posted on the net gave reasons that held rumors that the president has fake hair. Indeed, as he climbed up the gangplank, an air blast shook his hair and revealed a large bald patch from the nape of his neck to the top. Very quickly, the images went viral, not sparing the 70-year-old from several mockeries. Chinese President Xi Jinping narrowly avoided taking a remarkable dive at an international economic forum in St. Petersburg. Indeed, to shake hands with people in the audience, the Chinese president had to bend over slightly. And at one point he lost his balance and almost fell. Fortunately, the Russian president's bodyguard had the reflex to catch him in time. It was a close call. The Turkish President Erdogan is not very good at writing. The proof is in this totally hilarious video footage. We can see the president trying to show his great writing skills until the situation turns into a disaster. In fact, as soon as he got on the horse, the animal became agitated in all directions, not supporting Erdogan on his back. Once it fell to the ground, the unfortunate Turkish president even received a violent blow to his private parts. In March 2017, a few months before he became president, Emmanuel Macron went to the agricultural center. However, his visit did not go as planned because a most embarrassing incident occurred. He was hit in the head with an egg. A projectile was thrown several meters, which must have required the aggressor's concentration. This must have been really embarrassing. However, the future president obviously did not hold it against him and was pleased with the warm welcome he received. Before continuing the video, here is the question of the day. Who was president of the French Republic during the First World War? Is it Option A, Raymond Poincaré. Option B, Armand Folliers. Option C, Alexander Millerand. Write the right answer in the comments and we'll see at the end of the video if you were right. When he visited the town of Brax, Nicolas Sarkozy took the trouble to shake hands with a few locals. But he soon regretted it because behind the bars was a malicious individual who grabbed Sarkozy's jacket and violently pulled it against him. Unbalanced but above all very embarrassed, the former president probably had a few cold sweats. As for the attacker, he was immediately tackled to the ground by the security service. By going with his wife to Great Britain, Barack Obama had the most shameful moment of his life. Warmly welcomed by Elizabeth II, she even prepared a huge banquet in honor of the presidential couple. Thus, Obama, wishing to toast his host, stood up and began his speech. However, this was also the moment chosen by the orchestra to play the national anthem. As is customary, the hall rose, but the former president continued his speech as if nothing had happened. The Queen waited for the music to end before raising her glass, leaving Barack Obama to turn to the crowd and rest his, confused and embarrassed. Once again, Barack Obama has humiliated himself. Although reputed to be a good basketball player, this video proves just the opposite. We can see the ex-president missing all of his shots. Being frustrated, he approached the basket to try again, and no luck, without success. By trying in different ways several times, Obama finally managed to score a basket. To the applause of his audience, he immediately withdrew, covered in shame. Poor Barack. At the press conference held in Iraq in December 2008, a most hilarious event took place. One Iraqi journalist threw his shoe and then the other at former President George W. Bush. After dodging both shoes as a projectile, the journalist was subdued by law enforcement. Shortly after this incident, George Bush ironically said, "He threw a .44 at me." However, he certainly would not have made that joke if he had not dodged the shoes. George Bush has a knack for getting himself into embarrassing situations. Loving particularly hugs, he obviously did not spare Putin's wife, Lyudmila Putina. At that moment, the Russian president's look seemed to say, "Stop kissing my wife." While George Bush was making himself perfectly comfortable. In 2005, President Bush was again very embarrassed during a visit to China. Indeed, after an interview, Bush wanted to leave the room but the door refused to open. He struggled for a while and then stood up straight, not knowing how to act in the face of this unexpected situation. Everyone had laughed at him. Fortunately, a man finally showed him the way out. François Hollande is also a champion of embarrassing situations. For example, when it came time to cast his vote in the 2017 second-round presidential elections, former President François Hollande failed to put his ballot in the ballot box. He simply dropped it without noticing that it had not fallen out. Fortunately, the journalists were there to remind him of this. Another video sequence shows François Hollande again very embarrassed. And it's not without reason. At a public meeting organized by the Abbé Pierre Foundation, a woman intervened to flower the president from head to. The security services immediately tackled him to the ground while François Hollande slipped away to dust off his nose and his suit, which had become all white. Robert Mugabe, former president of Zimbabwe, was not spared some mockery when he was filmed at a press conference in Japan falling asleep, not sitting down, as usual, but standing up. An amusing situation that is probably due to his age. At that time, Robert Mugabe was no less than 93 years old. During the summit of the Arab League member states held in Amman, Lebanese President Michel Aoun wanted to get up on the platform to take a photo of himself, but he obviously hadn't noticed the step that was right in front of his eyes. So he threw himself violently to the ground, head first. This heavy fall, highly publicized in the media, was enough to make him blush for the rest of his life. Viktor Yanukovych, former president of Ukraine, was not very lucky one day when he was gathering in front of a wreath of fir branches. While he was bowing his head in front of the monument, the wreath fell directly on his head. The affair became so embarrassing for Viktor Yanukovych that he tried to hide the incident. But not surprisingly, all the media covered it and many internet users made fun of the president, attacked by a monster of a fir tree. Former Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili made the buzz in 2008. And for good reason. Forgetting that he was live on the BBC, Mikhail started to eat his tie. It was an astonishing scene that provoked mockery but also a lot of questions. Much later, the ex-president explained that he was appalled by political events. He may have imagined the worst-case scenario and snapped. Now it's your turn to comment on which of these situations is, in your opinion, the most embarrassing? Otherwise, the president of the French Republic during the First World War was Raymond Poincaré. I hope that many of you have found the right answer.